I think young people and elders alike have been so disenfranchised by what you see on social media, by what you see online, by what you even see sometimes in person. Because the disrespect isn't isolated to the phone. You see it in real life.
You gonna talk that talk, you gotta walk that walk, you know what I'm saying? To your point, it's like you just had to have that open dialogue. The thing that we give to the elders is the new way. Technology, the new way of living, slang, by older people having like gone through things, you know what I'm saying? The thing that's beneficial to them to pass down to us is the wisdom. That's something that's a win-win for everyone.
We need more people planting trees that they will never sit in the shade of.
Hello everyone, this is the Juneteenth of Buffalo podcast hosted by yours truly, JaySituated, also known as Jayvon, and today we have a very, very special guest. We have Austin Martin with us. Tell us a little bit about like what you do within the community and just generalize it, what you do for Juneteenth.
Okay, absolutely. My name is Austin Martin. First and foremost, I'm an outreach specialist at Northland. So out in the community, if you've ever seen me, probably did see me tabling at a Northland event. And at Northland, I'm what's called an outreach specialist. So we're a trade school where we help individuals 18 and up kind of get into manufacturing careers, get their skills, then get placed with those companies. So I'm at high schools, I'm at job fairs. And so Northland will be at Juneteenth walk-in present there. Then secondly, as a part of Do Miss Rise providers, I'm getting my YPA certification, which means a youth peer advocate, which will just allow me the skills to, within already existing organization and support systems in the government called health homes for families that qualify for Medicaid, I'll be able to work with youth that are getting help and receiving support as just another young person for them to help them advocate and develop those advocacy skills as they're trying to develop and transition into kind of functional adults. So I'll be there talking about Northland and trade jobs, but also talking about mental health and trying to get young people the support they need.
Yes, sir. As a young person myself, you know what I'm saying, I feel like it's very inspiring seeing someone that's, around the same age as me, putting that work, trying to, put out the outreach of like what they're trying to do within the community and stuff like that. But, shifting forward, let's talk about Juneteenth. What does Juneteenth mean to you? This year we celebrate the 50th year anniversary, you know what I'm saying, where the mission is serving our past and our future. What does all that mean to you personally?
Juneteenth to me is one of the last few pieces of Black history that's really celebrated, in my opinion, in any semblance of how it should be celebrated, and that actually shows respect to our history. I think like certain things are so common and commercialized, like it's so easy for an organization, and no shout out or no disrespect to an organization that does, but it's so easy to just change your logo for Black History Month and never actually do anything. But Juneteenth is one of those few times that we are on the spotlight and we do come out and we do show up and we do represent and we do get supported and celebrated. And so it means a lot to me, and it also means a lot because, in respect to the elders, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on this platform with those elders in charge, but with those new younger board members coming up as well. It's one of the few chances that you can see in our community where they really are focused on secession, passing that torch, and you can see kind of some of the wisdom of those elders, but also some of the zeal and energy of those younger members coming up that creates this really beautiful mix. So I think it's a really important celebration that is really, like I said, one of the best demonstrations of what it can look like when we really do come together.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna get to that point in just a second, but I also want to talk about this conversation. I am usually not one to like scroll on TikTok and respond on comment sections and things of that nature. But it just happened to be one day I was scrolling on TikTok and I seen the Juneteenth Festival had posted something about they wanted the youth to be more involved in Juneteenth and what to look for within the Juneteenth community, everything like that. But for whatever reason, there were individuals who was basically saying Juneteenth is a holiday that should specifically be celebrated by specifically African Americans. You know what I'm saying? But at least for me growing up, I feel like it was the exact opposite. Every time I go to the Juneteenth parades, ever since my grandmother took me when I was little, I've seen a culmination of all Black culture as a whole. You know what I'm saying? I've seen where we have gone out throughout the diaspora, through the Caribbean, through the motherland of Africa, and even coming into America. So I just want to know, what is your intake on that, and how do you feel like we could come across that? Because internally, I feel like just having that conversation or saying that you're creating or adding on top of a problem that's already happening, which is the division within the black community. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's like, I mean, you can't want growth and then want to control the growth,
Yeah.
right? And so I've never heard of a holiday where people, or any other holiday where people want to limit where it's celebrated. If anything, if you're upset with the ratio of people celebrating, then there should be more of us out there celebrating. But in no way, shape, or form would I ever want to limit the history and what that holiday represents. It means a lot. And so you never heard someone saying, well, you can't celebrate Christmas. If you want to give me a gift, I'm more than happy. If you want to march in the parade, if you want to honor our ancestors, I'm more than happy. I don't think it's something where it's about division. And even to that point, without other African cultures, because I'm going to go deeper than just like, without other cultures, we don't get Juneteenth.
Yes.
Like, so it is the effort of our success. We are lifted, but there were a lot of ancestors of different cultures who fought and marched. When you think about really fighting for black people, it didn't always just look like us. And so I don't think that it's a holiday that should be limited to just African American. I think it should be open. It should be embraced by other cultures because it's a national holiday. And if it's a national holiday, then that means we need the nation celebrating.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Just to give a little bit of a history lesson for those of you folks who don't know, when it comes to our escape of slavery, one of the people that influenced it was the Haitian Revolution. You know what I'm saying? They only basically like let it be known, like, you know, it's possible to like escape your slave masters and rebel and, you know, be successful afterwards. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like it's a very sad thing. You know what I'm saying? You're adding on top of a problem that has already been going on for centuries and centuries. And I feel like we gotta get to a point where we gotta realize that the power structure is intentionally doing this because we are very powerful entities intellectually and spiritually and everything else, like, you know, in between. But moving forward from
that. Can I add on to that too real quick? And I think now more than ever what Juneteenth stands for is needed by everybody. Like the fight now has spread deeper than even sometimes just our communities. Like the real division now is between those who have and those who don't have. And if you're watching like, well, I don't know if I'm one who has or doesn't have. If you're asking that question, you're one of the ones who doesn't have, right? Because those who have are somewhere making money off of exploiting other people.
Yes.
And so to that point, I think that the idea of liberation now more than ever is needed by all different cultures of people outside of even just black.
Yes.
Because now our communities, people aren't just suffering that look like us. There's more people on government assistance who don't look like us than who are, despite what the stereotypes will have you believe. You just got to drive a little bit outside the city limits. And so I'm saying that to say, I think it now more than ever needs to be something where Juneteenth is what is a celebration of a freedom that happened, but it should also be a proclamation of a freedom that we're marching towards in the future. So it's needed more than ever across all different communities.
Especially right now, you know what I'm saying? Even watching this past Super Bowl on the Bad Bunny performance, there was a lot of people talking about it was a bad performance because they couldn't understand what he was saying. But number one, I feel like it was very powerful that he was speaking in his native language. He wasn't code switching for, you know, anybody that was like probably sponsoring that was like, you know, not black or not Hispanic. You know what I'm saying? I found that to be powerful in itself. But me being the person I am, I did my own research. And when you like, you know, dive into indigenous roots, when you dive into Hispanic roots, it all starts with colonization. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we have to realize that we're all up against the same people pretty much, but they trying to keep us divided. But moving on from that, my question to you is when it relates to Juneteenth and, you know, this year's festival and parade, how do you feel as though we could get the youth more involved? You know what I'm saying? I feel like my intention with this podcast and everything else I'm doing with the Juneteenth community is to my job within the Juneteenth community is like, you know, create that outreach for the youth, you know what I'm saying? Create that bridge between the elders and the youth, because I feel like essentially that's what we need. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's finding ways for youth and their genuine interest to be represented within Juneteenth, right? I think a lot of people, like we talked about, are very weird when it comes to controlling the growth and what people are interested in, the directions that people want to go. I'm saying we look at the things that youth are already interested in, right? It's clear that there's a new increase now, ever than maybe in history, of the idea of financial responsibilities being at the front of a young person's mind. So how can we reflect the entrepreneurial spirit within our youth at Juneteenth? I think performing, influencing, being at the center of attention, really, as healthily or unhealthily as you think that is. Young people want open mics. Young people want opportunities to be on stage, want opportunities to speak. So the question has to be, how can we reflect young people's desire to have open mics, to create, and to have that creation be respected and showcased at Juneteenth? Is there a time or a place where we can have an open mic? And if we are going to have an open mic, within the lines of both, letting them express themselves, but also not ruining the spirit and respect of what that event is supposed to be. What does that middle ground look like? I think that's how you get youth engaged at Juneteenth. It sounds small, but if youth like money, we help them understand how they can get money at Juneteenth.
Exactly,
if youth like speaking, we give them opportunities where they can speak at Juneteenth. So I'm not saying that I represent or reflect every youth, and I'm not saying that I reflect and have every answer, but I think if you want to get youth more engaged at Juneteenth, it's going to start first by listening to what youth are already demonstrating that they want.
So, adding on top of that conversation, what do you feel like is the biggest connect when it comes to the youth and when it comes to the elders in current day society?
The biggest connection or disconnection?
Disconnect.
I think the biggest disconnect is where we are now. I think is hope. I don't even think a lot of young people even believe that there are elders in the community who want to listen to them. I don't think a lot of elders believe there are young people who respect them. And I was talking to my dad one day, not to go on a tangent. We were talking about, you saw this quote on Facebook, my dad be scrolling, and it said, the value of a man is in how he treats his mother and his wife. I think that's an amazing statement, right? But I said, I disagree. And I said, I actually think the value of a man is in his hope. Because if you believe you can make a better tomorrow, you believe tomorrow will be better than today, you'll try to get to tomorrow. The moment you start believing tomorrow might not be much better, that's when we need to get very, very nervous. Absolutely. But if you believe that tomorrow will be better, if you believe there will come a day that the action you're doing now will benefit you, if you believe the action you are doing now are creating a better future, if you're standing as living shoulders, that's all based on your hope. Because really what people have said and what I've heard from my mentor, Jim Anderson, is we need more people planting trees that they will never sit in the shade of. And so I'm saying this to say, I think young people and elders alike have been so disenfranchised by what you see on social media, by what you see online, by what you even see sometimes in person. Because the disrespect isn't isolated to the phone. You see it in real life. I may even contribute to it on an unconscious basis, but we need to believe and still believe that there are better elders, that there are youth that we can connect to. We need to continue to believe that, because that's the difference from elders continually getting up and still maybe not getting through the way they want to, but trying, and elders just sitting and watching youth make mistakes. Absolutely. That's the difference between youth saying and standing up in front of all their guys and saying, hold on, let's listen to what he's saying, believing that they'll also engage and that he's willing to engage, versus youth just saying, yeah, you're right, he is unk. And so I think there needs to be a change in the hope that we have that we can even change, because I hear a lot of rhetoric that doesn't really make me believe that we can even be better.
Exactly. You're going to talk that talk, you got to walk that walk, you know what I'm saying? One of my biggest things with it, I feel like to your point, is like just had to have that open dialogue. I'll give you an example. It was like within this past week, I just started working this job. We had like a long conversation about like different subjects and stuff like that, but by the end of it, you know what I'm saying, it was like at least like another individual that's like closer to my age and two other older individuals. And by the end of it, we pretty much learned from each other, you know what I'm saying? I feel like the thing that we give to the elders is the fact that the new way, technology, the new way of living, slang, or like, where the case may be, but like things that they necessarily would have thought of, but like by older people having like gone through things, you know what I'm saying, the thing that's beneficial to them to pass down to us is the wisdom, you know what I'm saying? And I feel as though we come together in that aspect and just talk about things and everything like that. That's something that's a win-win for everyone. You know what I mean? But like you said, you just have to like get off social media and just get our own way of saying that, older people might think of it as this way, because 9 times out of 10 it's certainly not the case. And especially like within the past like couple years, I'm starting to realize I have a lot of older friends. You know what I'm saying? It comes down to like me possibly like being mature and stuff like that. But I feel like by doing that, it has contributed to my exponential growth. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Just like being around an environment of people that generally want to see me succeed, versus like being around younger people that's like, a little wishy-washy.
Yeah, absolutely. And the statement, people always going there can't tell been there how to get there. But been there doesn't know that road has still been maintained.
Been there doesn't know what that road or journey looks like right now. And so it's like having the proper respect for going there and been there in the same conversation. How can someone who's seen the destination still understand and have proper respect that that route might have changed in modern times? Because there's a lot of things that we're all being confronted with for the first time. If you're 60, you might have just seen the internet as long as I've been alive, because I saw it when I was being born. So we in the same boat when it comes to the internet and AI. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of things that we are seeing for the first time that we just have to have respected in that dialogue for there to be more of a connection.
Absolutely. So in your intro, you mentioned that you advocate for mental health and things of that nature. First of all, what do you feel is like the current state of mental health within the Black community? Let's start there. How would you describe it?
Okay, so I think the Black community is broad. That's a broad term. So I'm going to speak on what I feel comfortable speaking on, which is Black youth, right? And I overall, again, like I said, I think we're so fragmented in the modern times, not to be too PC or like I'm scared of the truth, but I just don't know what the mindset looks like for every different group right now. But what I can tell you for modern young Black youth, and I was asked this on LinkedIn randomly by somebody, and this is what I basically said. I said, I think in the modern theme of life, paraphrasing, it's not that the old way of life or older way that we used to do things was easier, or that decisions didn't have outcomes. But it feels like in the lake that life used to be, that lake with the internet in the modern times has turned into an ocean. And all I'm gonna say is when you're swimming in open water and you don't really know if you're really making progress, it is something extremely more comforting to look over see a shore than just see more water. And this is what I mean when I say that statement. It feels like the middle class is disappearing and just being okay isn't enough anymore. And though we have more technology and power than ever, it feels like now we're not just competing with the guys in our town. I don't just got to be the fastest guy in Buffalo. I got to be the fastest guy in the world. Why? Because I'm seeing on my feed the guy overseas doing 24-hour days and I'm only doing 23. And it's created this competition where it almost feels, you wonder why so many young people are looking to be influencers and rappers, because it feels like if you're not rich, you're going to be broke forever. And it's made this desperation within our young culture, men and female. I guess I'm really speaking on young male youth, young Black male youth perspective, because it's created this desperation where go to a prison and ask any of those people in the cell, would you tell your son to do this? No. So then why do we still have so many young people trying to make this money quick in the streets? We feel like we need it. We're desperate. Like it's a desperate mindset. And desperate minds don't make money. Desperation is tangible. It's palpable. I could smell it on you. And young people nowadays are desperate in the money, but also desperate in the reliefs. We don't drink as much or go out, but we drugged up. Young people is drugged up. And I'm not even on, we're going to be PC. I'm not saying I'm impervious from it. Like I'm being fully transparent right now. Like we're drugged up. We're looking for relief. Why? Because I go on news and I see and I think there's an active shooter downtown. Why? Because I go on news and I can see wars going on. I got friends that I know getting draft letters and I'm scared. So we're desperate. And what that mindset does in reference to older youth or older elders in general in the Black community, when I'm searching for a solution, it makes anything but that solution a waste of my time.
So my question on to you, relating to this subject, do you feel like in this scenario, is it difference between desperation and drive? You know what I'm saying? Because I consider myself to be an influencer, you know what I'm saying? But I don't feel as though I'm desperate. I just had to drive. I had the motivation because what I had been through and my circumstances, you know what I'm saying? I always tell people this, I don't even know the product of my circumstances. I can help I was raised in the area I was raised in. I can help I was in the predicaments I was raised in. You know what I'm saying? However, I feel like those scenarios is what helped molded me into the person I am today and what created character. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't feel like for at least in my case, it's a desperation. It's more so of a drive. I want to get my mom a house. I want to be able to buy myself a car. I want to be able to get my children, whenever I have children, a better life and not the life that I was raised up having. So.
I don't think, and it's not to, like you said, trash on everybody, because it's not like, but this is the question, right? And this is, and don't get me wrong, you should never do a job because they don't just pay you. But the question is like, but if this was not a lucrative field, how many influencers are left? If this was not where the money was, you couldn't get in front of the cameras, you was gonna do this, like I used to do podcasts, to nobody. How many months you got with that before you like, I don't like this no more? And I'm not saying that that's your case, but I'm saying that it's a shame that so many young people that I see are convincing themselves that they want careers when they really just want money. Because when they talk about these careers and what it influences, like, you're not mentioning Kai Cenat before he got famous. You're not mentioning Mr. Beast before he got famous. You're looking at it after the fact. Go watch the videos when Mr. Beast was counting to 1 million on a camera just rolling. You want to do that? No. So then you don't want to be an influencer. You want money, which is fine. And we as a society need to work, and we have failed to help young people realize how they can connect their true passions to money. So I don't think that every young person doesn't have the desire to create. I just think that number is really inflated. Just like I think a lot of younger black males want to get into sports. Or why do you always hear they want to go to the, what do you go, sell drugs, rap, or go to the NBA? Why do you hear that those are the three that black men all want to do? You think our entire race is simplified into these 33, 33, and 33 buckets? No, it's because those are all simple ways that we know get you money. And I think we're subscribing to that. So we're desperate. So I'm not saying that you can't want to be an influencer, but I'm saying that I got none other influence who I don't feel like really want it. Yeah. And we need to help them understand that you don't have to fake the funk. There's other ways to get to that money without lying to yourself about what your passions are. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. So I don't think it's everybody, but I think there's some people who are desperate, and I don't blame them for it. It's not their fault.
Okay. So also shifting gears, like regarding mental health. What is like one way that you experience racism, or like the first time you experienced racism in a broad scheme of things? I'm gonna give you an example for me.
Please.
So growing up, you know what I'm saying, I was someone who was raised in Buffalo public schools. Now with that being said, you know, you hear about like MLK and Malcolm X and everything like that. I actually believe my own propaganda. I thought this was stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s. It just never would have happened in today's society up until May 14, 2022. Those of you from Buffalo obviously know what that is. You know what I'm saying? It was the day of the Tots Massacre. And actually about to be like 4 years now, which is crazy. Yeah, 4 years. I feel like it was just yesterday. My mom, unfortunately, she happened to be there while it happened. You know what I'm saying? And my grandmother, she actually lives on Northland. She, you know, that was her last time being in her house. And the reason why I mentioned my grandma while telling this story is because my grandma, she was very spiritually in tune. So it's like my grandma protected from something for happening to my mother. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like it was a growing experience because, like I said, never would have thought this was happening close to me. Like, this is my mother. Regardless of what me and my mom had been through, you know what I'm saying? She's the reason why I have life. She's the reason why I'm here today. So I just want to know, like, from your perspective and from your point of view, what is your first time encountering racism at a broad level where he was like, wow, like stuff like this still happens today?
I guess on a systematic level, and I don't like when people make anything a suffering competition. Like, so I never try to make it seem like, oh, well, you want to see that? I want to see something even crazy. Like, no. So I first one I was by saying, like, that is, to your point, a terrible thing that happens, and that is a way more poignant or strong example of systematic racism. But my smallest example wasn't even so much in the lows, but more in what the highs and how people can judge what the highs can look like. And this is what I mean. I went to high school in Buffalo because I was trying to figure out why I was sitting there thinking how I was going to describe this story without going into detail. But I went to a high school in Buffalo, and if you know me, it's whatever. But I took an entrance exam at this high school. I had to. It was a private school. And I scored good enough where I could go into like the advanced track and whatever that was called. Yeah. And I remember, my name is Austin Martin, by the way. Intentional. It's not, I ain't scared of my heritage, but that name should be pretty ambiguous. If you see Austin Martin together, you don't know when I show up really what color or tint this is going to be. And so I showed up and I was on the advanced track. Like, I'm taking all the advanced classes, like, straight up. Yeah. And I will never forget, I went into my first period class. I had my schedule. I looked around for the class, and it was like some advanced math class. And I walked in, his teacher looked at me. You at the right place? I'm like, ooh. Yeah. Let me see your schedule. Looks at it. Oh, you are right. Oh, you're Austin. Yeah. And it hit me in that moment because it was like, oh, even if I'm balling in here, even if I'm just killing it in here,
people still
what you first gonna see, what I'm competing against, it is already judged. I couldn't even control that. Ain't nothing I did. You didn't ask the other three people behind me if they were lost. Mm-hmm. So what was different about me? But in that same token, I know
I want to wrap this point up quickly. I was talking to another young black professional, and I asked him, I said, we hear so much about the downsides of racism, how racism is worked against us, but has it ever worked in your favor as a professional? And what he told me changed my mind. He said, Austin, because they expect so little of us, it's a lot easier for me to shine because you underestimated me. And what do you people always say? Ask me the foot in the door. And they let us get the foot in the door way too much. Because ask me how my high school experience went. I left with a 4.0. I failed one test in my life. Freshman year to senior year combined, my average was a 96.7, 13 APs.
That's
so
amazing.
When you let me in the door, you should have told me this was the wrong class. Because as soon as you asked me, was it? Oh man, these 4 years finna be something. And so I'm saying that to say, I think it can work in your favor, but that was one of my most stronger experiences that I could think about without just the usual stuff that you see. Like, and again, like being younger on my block, I've also, when I was younger, been stopped on a longboard. Or had me and my friends, we were riding, we had a Gatorade full of water, cop pulled up, what's in that Gatorade? Poured it out like it was vodka, brother. We're like 11, but those are little things. But that was the first time I ever seen it at the high where I was like, oh, it's it's really not too much I could do. Because no matter how I come in here, if I come in here with 99s, you still gonna, at first glance, not believe it. So that was probably one of my experiences.
All right, so when it relates to Juneteenth, what do you think of the perspective of Juneteenth 365? And basically what I mean by that is, you have like Black History Month, which is ironic that it's only 28 days, but whatever, that's its own other conversation. But celebrating Juneteenth 365 or basically like year around. How you feel about that?
I like the idea, and I almost think like it's like talking about a house describing the door, meaning Juneteenth 365 is how we should be living, but it really should be more of a preference to we should be living in our Black history and excellence year round. That shouldn't be limited to just a year. In the same way that people know about Juneteenth, it should be Tulsa 365. It should be March on Selma 365. It should be Montgomery Veterans 360. You see what I'm saying? Like this is the precursor to what I think absolutely is true in the sense that we should be more in tune with our history and reflecting those ideals year round. And starting with Juneteenth, I think is, like we mentioned at the beginning, because it is such an important holiday, because we're coming up on 50 years in a city where it has so strong roots. I think it's very good as a starting principle, but it can't be the whole house because Black history is way more than Juneteenth. But Juneteenth is definitely a great place to start. So I'm a big fan of Juneteenth 365, Kwanzaa 365. Yes. Like I said, I think this is the beginning of what Black history and Black excellence can look like.
And like I said, I feel like it's what it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? You look at our heritage, we are the origins of humanity in general. You know what I'm saying? Humanity comes from Africa. We are descendants of kings and queens. So having that celebration, because if you get into like genealogy, you get into anthropology, you get into archaeology. Excuse me.
Now you
get into all of that.
You throwing big words around.
Yeah. Well, my point is, you study all of that. It all ties back down to our heritage. You know what I'm saying? So we have a broad heritage that can be celebrated, can be talked about 365 days a year. Go moving forward. So that's basically the end of this podcast. Appreciate you for tuning in. This is the Juneteenth Buffalo podcast with guest Austin Martin, host Jayvon. Appreciate you for tuning in.
Thank you.